Hello and welcome everybody to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. I'm delighted that I have another gorgeous guest today, and I feel like this is going to be a good one. I'm talking to Natalie Bedard, who is a founder of a company called Lift Oneself. And Natalie is an energy healing coach and an empowerment coach. And I think whatever you feel you need from Natalie, she probably can give it to us. We are very aligned on a lot of things on this energy healing journey that we're on. So I want to say a huge, massive welcome, Nat Nat. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Wow, Rosanna, thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. And I am very excited to see the deep dive that we get into because before we started recording, just the flow of the way that we can communicate, it's going to be a delight.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, I'm just going to delve into what you do because having looked at your website and what you do, you really, this lovely title of yours, Lift Oneself, um, is so beautiful. The idea of lifting, and you lift others up, you lift people up in everything that you do. And again, I can tell with your energy, like you're so compassionate and empathetic and aligned with the healing energies. So before we get into all of the kind of modalities and the things and the ways that you work, um, tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you come to be what you are? How did you come to be an energy healing coach? What was your journey?
Well, I almost died 10 years ago.
Oh my God.
I yeah, I had lesions in my brainstem and my cerebellum. And and I was hospitalized almost for 40 days, going through a bunch of tests to try to find the root cause of what was causing these lesions. And medicine and science, when they don't know what's going on, these tests are very painful. So there were biopsies and lumbar punctures and radiation. And so in that, I really got a front seat of understanding the nervous system
Mm,
and seeing, these chemical dumps that happen, how challenging it is to string along thoughts to bring action forward, to see like how daunting it is to do things that you don't want to do, and how easy it is when you want to do something, like how the energy really shifts within yourself. So it was almost like being a child again, and seeing the world with fresh eyes. When I had the lesions, I was bedridden. I hadn't had like a bowel movement in 6 weeks. I couldn't keep anything down. I was vomiting. The lesions in my cerebellum actually changed the positioning of my eyes. So I was cross-eyed. I had vertigo. So I was really in my body, crippled with pain, and couldn't go anywhere. So when I was in the hospital, they had said, like, I don't think you'll ever probably walk again or be able to do the functions that you could do at one time, because of these lesions. And so I was released from the hospital without a proper diagnosis or a plan because they didn't know, what was causing it. And the closest that they could come to was called neosarcoidosis. Yeah, they needed that for paperwork so I could apply for disability and all that stuff. And a year later, I discovered meditation, thankfully, for a friend, my friend Diane, who said, you know what, I'm going to go find an info session about meditation. Do you want to join me? And I was like, oh, okay. So I went in there, and the teacher had said at the beginning, she's like, most people, when they start meditation, at a certain point, they drop off, they leave, and then they come back like a year or two later and say they want to continue.
mm,
And I started going profoundly deep. Um, and because kind of death was on my door, it was like, okay, well, I cannot avoid all this stuff that's coming up in me, because meditation helps to regulate the nervous system. So all the stuff that you have stored and pushed down as regards to emotions and feelings, they all come up. So I told my teacher, I'm like, I totally understand why people quit. Like, this stuff is overwhelming. I'm like, what the heck?
yeah.
There were days where I was just bawling on my bedroom floor, and just deep rage and howl of heartbrokenness and bawling of seeing all the things that I had gone through and experienced, and also see the parts of like the self-sabotage of myself. No longer looking at the actions of what other people did to me, also see where I was in that part of the dance and
Yes.
what I allowed, not consciously, just understanding how trauma impacts the nervous system. And so by doing the meditation and really opening up my self-awareness, my self-realization, there was a wisdom that came up. And when I'm around people, they feel very safe because my nervous system helps with this regulation. And then they go into a radical honesty. Because to be able to have healing, you need honesty for yourself. And it needs to be radical honesty because
Hmm.
you're going to have to face yourself.
Yeah.
And it takes some time to be able to face yourself. And what you're facing are these defense mechanisms that your nervous system has created to protect you from your authentic self, your authentic emotions, because most of us feel secondary emotions or we don't feel anything to be able to navigate through the world in our relationships. And so more and more my body came back online and the doctors were like, I don't know how, these lesions were caused. And then I don't know how they're rectifying themselves. It almost sounds like you're, doing some mindfulness. So continue what you're doing because you're getting the results needed. And so then in 2019, while meditating, it just became more and more clear that, you know what, you have a gift to offer to other people. You have a language that's simple, that brings people directly into their nervous system for them to face.
Mm.
A lot of people call it the ego. And when you are talking directly to the nervous system, it's going to put all its defense mechanisms up so that it avoids you facing that vulnerability, that worth, that value within yourself, because you've created this narrative of you're not able or capable of feeling all these things. And so when you're able to start doing that work of returning home into your body, into your worth, into your big self, that is without words, and that is the healing. And there is, for myself, there is no healed. It is a continuous journey of healing because life is impermanent. You could have faced all the things from your childhood and regulated your nervous system, but moving forward, there's traumatic things that are going to happen. Like being human is traumatic.
Mm.
And so want to develop the tools to navigate those tsunamis, navigate and not just be that you have no emotions. You want to still feel that human experience so that you can have a depth of really feeling alive, which can feel really awful at times because there's some really dense emotions and feelings, and especially grief. I give verbiage to people that most people grieve at least once a year. And grief isn't only just a person dying or an animal dying. It's like you lost a job or you had an illness and now you had to grieve a part of yourself that is no longer to be there, or relationships. It's really changing the definition of grief and also having a healthy relationship with death,
Mm.
really changing the relationship that you have with death and allowing your curiosity to emerge to be able to navigate in the uncertainty and the unknown, which the nervous system, when it has to go in there, it gets activated. So that's where you have to build your tools to regulate yourself to be able to experience that uncertainty, that unknown, and to be able to drop into that stillness, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does. I mean, that's a what an extraordinary journey, Nat. That's huge, and I'm so blown away by what you had to go through. That sounds really traumatic, but often, and I say this to people, to my clients who are going through like a really tough time, and they're like, they can't get any worse. And I'm like, well, guess what? The only way is up. These learning moments, these are the moments where you're really going to learn. But what I wanted to ask you, just to rewind, because you said so many amazing things already, but I'm going back to a really basic question because, basic sort of person. Um, I wanted to ask you, what type of meditation was it that you were doing? Because obviously there are so
TM,
many different types. TM.
Transcendental Meditation, TM. So I learned TM. And now I just do Vipassana. Actually, Roseanne, would you be willing to do a meditation with me right now?
Yes, absolutely.
It'll be a short one, just like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Perfect.
Yet I don't want to bring in the listener. I don't want to be just one talking about it. I'd like to bring people in to really understand the power of the breath and come into their body. So for the listeners, a lot of people listen to this while driving or needing your visual senses. So when I ask Roseanne and myself to close our eyes, please don't do that. We want you to be safe and those around you to be safe. Yet the other prompts that I guide us through, you're able to do those prompts. So Roseanne, I'm going to ask you to get comfortable and to gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to observe while still keeping your awareness on your breath. Becoming aware of the rhythm. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up in the body. It's okay. Let them arise. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. There may be some thoughts or memories that are coming up. Don't push it away. Just bring your awareness back to your breath. And allow those sensations to come up also. And drop further into the body. Just keep your awareness on your breath. Continue staying with your breath and dropping further into your body. Still staying with your breath at your own time and at your own pace. You're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath.
It's a place you want to stay, isn't it? Mm. Yeah.
But you can bring it into the everyday.
Mm. Yeah.
Every moment.
It's something that I always use the breath as a gateway into meditation. I couldn't do it without you don't, it's not as if you can sit there not breathe, but that awareness of the now with the breath is such a powerful tool, and it is such a beautiful, simple tool that you have with you at all times. We cannot go anywhere without our breath. And so whenever you're, sitting on a train, on a commuting, waiting in line, you can just bring yourself back to that awareness of breath, even with eyes open. And when you get practice, I'm imagining you can literally just close your eyes for like 5 seconds and then open your eyes and you be with the breath. That's a really beautiful technique. Lovely.
Yes.
Mm.
And so this is what I offer to people, that they can come in back into their biology. And like you said, when we're waiting in line and the impulsivity comes and the frustration and the patience is running thin, anchoring in our breath, being able to ride those waves internally.
Mm.
Because, more and more with technology, we're becoming cyborgs, and we're a microwave society that we want instant gratification. We want it now, that we've forgotten to just slow down.
Yeah.
It can feel very threatening
Just spending
to
time with
slow.
your own thoughts is something that people don't do anymore. Like you have 5 seconds left, even if you just go to the bathroom, you're taking your phone with you to keep you entertained. It's like you're just sitting, just take a moment with yourself, with your body. I mean, you're doing a bodily function, might as well focus on it. But yeah, we are so afraid to be apart from this constant thing and to be alone with our thoughts. And it's something that I tell my clients too. I was telling a client just this morning, I said, just sit around and daydream. Like, not, you're not even trying to meditate, you're not trying to do anything. You're just sitting down going, I'm just going to spend some time with myself and see what I'm thinking, see what comes up. And that's such a treat because you learn to love yourself. That's a good way, just go, oh, I see how you work. This is it's a
That's the
fascinating.
laughter. It's, allowing yourself. And, sometimes when people are alone, they don't want to, because the inner critic comes up. There's a language that is very self-loathing and berating. Yet it's like, okay, well, befriend it. It's
Mm,
your defense mechanisms trying to protect you from feeling some big emotions that you've probably not felt before.
yeah,
So it's like, what are you trying to protect me from? And a lot of times it's the fear.
yeah, yeah,
And
that
there's healthy.
yes. Well, this is the interesting thing. So, I mean, I thinking of a couple of people in particular who I know, like every so often they'll just be tootling along in life, just happy, and then all of a sudden the head goes into the hands, and there's just like this big overwhelming sort of memory, essentially, that comes over them of, I don't know, regret or recriminate, something that, and we allow this. So how do we get out of that particular nasty little trap of when the mind, you're minding your own business, having a perfectly nice day, and suddenly something comes over and you go, oh God, I messed that up, or I should have done something different. Like, what is it that we can do when that comes up? Because that's a big one, I think, for a lot of people.
Those are what I call the visitors that come to see how have you developed your tools. There's
Yeah.
no getting rid of it. It's recognizing that the nervous system will have flashbacks because something that you're in right now felt a similarity that activated something in the past and some of those habits. So when it comes up, when you have the self-awareness of, oh, wait a minute, what is actually underneath this not feeling good enough for this regret? What am I actually feeling? What are the emotions that are trying to protect me with not feeling?
Mm, yeah.
And that's developing the tools of, I'm going to face my authentic emotions, not my secondary emotions.
Mm. Yeah. So, and just to bring you back to something you were talking about earlier, and you were talking about grief, which is something that we all have to deal with. And there's various, grief on a scale, on a whole spectrum. And I think we understand that, you can just lose your favorite crystal and grieve that, Yeah, or you can lose a parent that you love dearly, and that's a whole different ball game. But how do and I don't know, I could say what I would always say, but I would love to know, how do you advise people to process grief? Because it's such a big one.
You got to feel,
Exactly. Ooh,
and it sucks.
yeah.
There's going to be rage. You
Mm,
have to befriend the rage and the anger.
yeah.
Most of us don't even have a healthy relationship with anger.
No, we
Anger
don't.
is the bodyguard to really just, feel and let it be messy.
Mm,
Let it have an expression of whatever it needs to be expressed without you wanting it to look a certain way, or the wonderful narrative that society and culture where you should be over it by now. Just get back to work.
yeah, yeah.
Where I understand there's responsibilities and We have to show up in certain ways. Yet you have to give yourself the permission to take the time needed. So if you have to go to work, then okay, and you have to put on this mask just to kind of go through it. What are you providing for yourself in the nighttime,
Mm.
in the evening time? It could be an hour of just, I gotta just let this out for a minute.
Yeah. So when we're talking about these really big emotions, for me and with the work that I do with the chakras and with yoga, I feel that it's a very important part of this work of processing emotions is that we deal with it somatically. These emotions are sitting in your body. In your lovely little meditation that we just did, you said let's like just sink into your body, be in your body. So, we hold on to this stuff. Grief sits heavy in the heart. Unprocessed grief can cause all sorts of chaos with heart, lungs, shoulders, hands, all that whole heart chakra area. And so for me, I'm like, we need to deal with this physically. We need to move the body. We need to shake it out. We need to. So what is your modality in terms of like dealing with it somatically, if you do?
You know what I'm always letting my clients know that, when the nervous system's activated with the four F's, the fight, freeze, fawn, or flee, it's recognizing the nervous system needs movement. Even when you don't want to move, you got to move. And the best thing that you can do somatically to release these energies is dance.
Yes.
And music can allow there to be an expression that, whatever feeling or sensation you're feeling, you can find a music to kind of bring
Ah,
that out even more so
yeah.
that you can have some expression and not analyze yourself and allow the body to release these energies and have expression, because these emotions, these dense energies need a way of expression. And dancing is a way to do that directly right there and let it be a playfulness, because yoga, it's bringing you right to the crux in your body, yet some people aren't willing to be able to surrender to that process. It just feels too visceral. I'm not ready, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yet dancing allows there to be a playfulness with it
Yeah. And it
until
allows
you go
it
deeper.
yeah, it allows the body to express it how it wants to, rather than, you're just going to do trikonasana or dog pose or something. Like your body may not feel like doing that, or it needs more freedom than that sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Because
totally.
dance, you can stomp, you can clap your hands, you can wiggle, you can be sensual, all kinds of different ways the body needs to move. And the lymphatic system needs jumping. So being able to jump allows that lymphatic to move around the toxins also, because these emotional charges impact our lymphatic also.
Yeah, yes, yeah, of course. There's the whole endocrine system is affected by your energy. I mean, everything is affected by your energy, but I love that. Yeah. So dance it out, shake it out.
And give yourself expression, like, and to bring that, you're having this expression and you're actually allowing that creativity and art form to come out too.
Yeah.
Like, please stop about I don't know how to dance.
Yeah, it's like the same
Everybody,
as people say, I don't know how to sing.
it's
Yeah.
like
You
we
can make a noise with your voice. You can move your body. If you can move your body, you can dance. Even if you're in a wheelchair, you can dance. You can move your arms. You can move whatever. Yeah, you can. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but you can do an expression with your physicality in some way. That's such an important thing to do. Yeah.
And with grief, I also let people know, like, yell in a pillow and start humming so you can vibrate the vagus nerve to help with that regulation and that expression, because some of that energy is just, like I said, it sucks and it's overwhelming. So you need to let it out. You need to let that frequency out. And I like, when some of my clients, they have very deep grief. So I'm like, yell in a pillow. They're
Yeah.
like, that feels so childish. Like I'm so baby. And I'm like, I understand the narrative. Do not listen to that part. Do what you need and scream. And once they do it, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much of relief. And I'm like, yeah, it's just an expression. It's an energy, a frequency that needs to come out.
But children are very instinctive. Children act from their they don't question whether it's suitable or right or acceptable. They just do. So if they want to scream into a pillow, they scream into a pillow. So there's something, that's holding us back. That is exactly the right thing to do. And that's following your intuition as to what is the right thing to do. And this is another thing that I wanted to ask you about is intuition, because it is sort of bit of a sidestep, but this is one of the things that I wrote down that I want to talk to you about intuition, because it's one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how do I know what is intuition and what is just my inner voice, or my ego, or that other voice that comes up, the one that tries to keep us safe but is kind of a bit annoying and can be quite negative and critical. What is your read on that? How do you deal with working out what is intuition and what isn't?
Well, it's a lot of trial and error,
Hmm.
because you start to understand the different voices and how it feels inside your body.
Mm.
And sometimes intuition is going to activate fear because it's going to want to bring you into the unknown uncertainty. And you're like, I don't know about that. And it's like, just follow my guidance. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And so, my intuition has brought me into places where I'm like kicking and screaming, yet I followed it because I had faith and trust. And then um, it did things that blows my mind still to this day.
Mm.
I've been very intuitive from like a young age. And what you need with intuition is to reactivate your relationship with curiosity.
Okay.
Many of us have stunted our curiosity.
Yeah.
And so you really need to start activating your curiosity of asking some questions, going beyond the limiting beliefs or definitions that you've created. Start questioning things.
Mm. Yeah. I mean that questioning of things, it even that side of it sort of brings up questions as in, am I asking the right questions? Am I, there's a whole lot of critical stuff that gets layered and layered and layered on top of that. Um, that makes understanding that, but you're absolutely right. It's trial and error. You've just got to go for it and see what happens and have faith and yeah, ask
There'll
them.
be some mistakes. It's really now starting to develop the tools that of life is for me, not against me, that life has pain. You're going to face pain. If you don't, what made the most people what they do, and I still do it at times also, is that there is an event and it's painful and you don't want to go through it. So you try and avoid it in every kind of way. You gather a bunch of suffering.
Mm.
Yet you come right back to the same location where you have to go through the pain, yet you've gathered all kinds of suffering. So it makes it even more difficult to go through that pain because of all this big suffering. Yet you recognize more and more, oh, wait, let me not avoid pain. Because when I do, it makes it more difficult for me to wake up in the moment and move forward because we go into that suffering by avoiding pain. And we've created a society that is averse to pain.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't deal with pain. I was a lot of times in class, if because people don't like an uncomfortable pose. So if I'm asking them to say, for example, a really basic one, just like stretch out your hand, stretching your hamstrings out or opening your hips up. And it can be really uncomfortable. I don't ever ask somebody to go to some place that's painful or like really horrible. But that stretch in the outer hip can be like, oh, that's so like you've got to make friends with that sensation because the only way it's going to disappear is if you sit with it and make friends with it. And it works. And people don't believe me at first, and I feel like they resist me for months, if not years, and then finally they give in.
I find that fascinating. There's so many people that they're like, Natalie, it's not in your head. I do avoid you because I don't want to see my shit. I don't want to deal with the stuff. So I just avoid you until I'm ready. And then I'm like, okay, just rip it open and let me see myself. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. Because for a long time before I had the illness, I was tethered to my intuition and I was in truth. And I would say things, yet it would, cause a disruption for people. And because I wanted that validation and belonging, let me just kind of dim myself and not say anything. Because I would see like the elephant in the room, and I'm like, why doesn't anybody else see the elephant? Like, are you not wanting this? And so having that language and people telling me, it's like, okay, no, you just show up the way you need to. Stop conforming yourself in a way to belong. And who is needed and wants to hear the information, then they're going to be there. And not take it personally that I am doing something wrong. It's just show up in the way. And I go deep. And a lot of people, they're like, I didn't bring my scuba gear today, so I don't want to go deep, please. Yeah, and I'm like, after a while, like I can only go superficial for so long.
Yeah. But there's
Where, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, but that's where the answers lie. That's where the interesting stuff lies. You can say, how are you feeling? You go, oh, I'm feeling a bit sad. Why, what's underneath that? And what's underneath that? And what's underneath that? And what's underneath that? And when you get like 4 or 5 layers down, that's when you actually start getting to the truth of where the root of everything is. And it's like trying to do gardening and pulling out a dandelion. If you just pull out the leaves, it's just going to float back. You've got to put in the effort. You've got to dig right down, even if that root is like 0.5 meter long and it's a pain in the ass to get to. You've got to go deep in order to get the root of it out, that whatever it is that's causing that short-term issue in the present moment. Just removing the symptoms, like taking a painkiller for, is great short term. You can't deal with it right now. Great, take a painkiller, but actually getting to the root of why you're getting headaches or what this issue is that you're avoiding. Yeah, you got to go deep. So,
And like I say, my statement is process your shit.
mm.
Every garden has manure. And without the manure, you won't have the vibrancy of the flowers or the nutrients for the garden.
Mm.
And sometimes people are pulling out roots like a dandelion. We're becoming more and more aware of how nutrient and beneficial it is.
Oh,
If
yes.
people don't want to hear that because it doesn't look aesthetically nice on my lawn, yet they're pulling out things that would be beneficial for them.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, the leaves and the root. Am I right? The root's got amazing properties. Yeah.
Or the whole thing. Yeah. So, it's having that's why I say, it's getting to know your biology,
Mm.
getting to understand your nervous system and not berating it, and actually honoring why there were defense mechanisms there in the first place. It was always protecting you. It might be a pain in the ass now because it doesn't work as an adult. Yet when you created it as a child, you needed it. So now it's like, okay, how do I befriend this and rewire it?
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
the
want to
big
throw the baby out with the bathwater.
but this is the work. This is the big work, is this reprogramming of those thought patterns, of those behavior patterns that we've put in place to keep ourselves safe. How do we unboggle that big tangle of, because essentially it's the you're going down the same neural pathway, X happens, oh, I go down that pathway to consequence Y. And what we're trying to do in our brains is to not cross through that neural pathway, but grow new ones. And that's hard work. It's really hard work. How do you go? What's your technique for doing that? If you have such a thing.
Explaining, like I just had a client and she's doing some things. She's like, how do I stop? And I'm like, okay, well, let's understand why you're doing it. You're trying to control a situation to try to avoid pain. So you think if I go do this, I'm kind of like being proactive of stopping something, where it's like you can't control people.
Mm,
Recognize you need to start creating a language of safety and acknowledging I don't feel safe. So I'm going to try to create something that brings safety to me. And a lot of our habits and our patterns were things that would stop what's going on internally to give a type of self-soothing, but it doesn't last. So you just have to continue. And that's why addictions happen, because you're avoiding the pain. And the
mm.
pain is when we don't feel safe, nervous system gets all out of whack. So now it's creating safety within your own body, not on the outside. And that is that repair of what is the safety. Understand yourself. Like we just did the meditation, anchoring in your breath. See what's going on. Are you doing shallow breathing? What's going in your thoughts? How is that interaction with somebody? It sounds, all this stuff, people are like, I can't do all of that. And I'm like, at first, it's going to be very daunting because you haven't been paying attention to yourself. You've been trying to figure everybody else on the outside to control the environment rather than focusing on your own environment and what you need
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
using loving kindness and befriending yourself and acknowledging and accepting that it's going to be messy.
Always is. The change and growth is always messy. But, this is the wonderful thing that I know, that everybody who listens to this podcast is on this journey one way or another. They are trying to unravel blocked emotions, that stuff, and they're trying to change their thought processes and become calmer and more content and what have you. That lots of different reasons for wanting this journey. But being under getting to that point where you can go, actually, I can begin to unravel that
You can
boggle.
face your emotions.
Yeah.
It's the big buzzword is being your authentic self. I'm just being authentic to me and it's like, okay, well, are you feeling your authentic emotions or are they your secondary emotions? Because just like you said, I'm feeling sad, but what's underneath that? And
Mm.
what's underneath that? We don't even know how to feel the authenticness of us. Like you said, a child just knows how to express and not worry about what the parents or what anybody's saying or that you're out in society. I'm just going to feel what I'm going to feel and I'm going to express it.
Yeah.
Well, we've been conditioned not to feel our authentic emotions.
Yeah. No, we all feel like having a meltdown in the supermarket every so often, but we don't do it because we're not toddlers anymore, sadly.
And we don't even know sometimes where we can just say, wait, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated.
Mm.
We just keep going and navigating. And it's like, take a moment for yourself and acknowledge, oh, this is overstimulating. I am overwhelmed. Whoa, my senses are going to go all over the place. Let me just intentionally take a pause. Like taking a 1 second, 2 second pause feels like a threat when you're dysregulated. Yet the more that you do those tools and you acknowledge what's going on inside, then you're able to navigate on the outside in a different way.
Yeah. Finding that
It's warrior work.
and that pause that you give yourself is actually one of the biggest tools of self-care that you can use, isn't it? You know, that it's an interesting thing, and people say, I'm trying to learn to love myself and, actively self-care. And a lot of people think, that's just sort of massages and bubble baths, and to a certain degree, it can be that, absolutely. But actually taking a moment and just excusing yourself to go and sit in another room, um, without your phone, without that stimulation, and just take 3 breaths. That's literally it, just 3 breaths, and you can reset.
And recognize, a lot of people are using the language that I'm trying. No, you're doing it. The not good enough always signals us and makes us feel that we are not doing it properly. Like I
Mm,
just had to remind my client, she's like, I'm trying to process and I don't. And I'm like, you are processing,
mm.
yet it's overwhelming. And there's these emotions you've never engaged with before. So it's great. I'm creating a lot of overwhelm and overstimulation. Yet this is the processing and you're doing it. Remember context. We forget context.
That's such a great way of putting it, because I feel like I see that a lot. I feel it in myself sometimes. I go, I'm trying to do this stuff and I'm trying, but you're right, I'm doing it. I'm just in the process of it. You know, that's a
Yeah.
really positive way of thinking about it. I love that. Yeah.
Come back into the doing. We're always told, unless it has this big impact, you haven't done it properly, where it's like processes little by little. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But in those bites, you don't feel like, oh, I'm trying to get to this elephant, not recognizing, oh, I'm chewing at it one bite at a time. That's all I can do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But this, I think what is an interesting point to me, you said about this sort of communicating authentically and trying to express your truth and what's actually really happening for you. That's something that I think a lot of people find quite challenging to actually, first of all, just like name your emotion, just like, how am I feeling? Yeah. Think of a word that actually adequately embodies what you're feeling is a tough thing to do. Um, but then to let it come out of your mouth in a way that is not going to offend or upset or dysregulate somebody else, you know that all of those things, we have this judgment that comes the other way when we're trying to speak. We quite often feel that, well, I can't say that to them because they're going to think that I'm nuts, or they're going to think that I'm needy, or they're going to think, I don't know, any number of different things. We do that to ourselves enormously, don't we?
We do. And, again, it's context. It depends on who your audience is. If there's no safety, you're not able to show your vulnerability. And your vulnerability is, expressing your emotions. Also, we also have this narrative that we have to protect other people's emotional well-being rather than our own.
Yes, we really
And
do.
it's
Yeah.
our responsibility, our emotions, and we are allowed to have our needs and our feelings. And so it's, rewiring that part of allowing emotions to be in conversations and communication. Many of us don't even know how to communicate with emotions.
No, no, we don't. So how do we? If somebody goes, yeah, that's me, I don't really know, or I know somebody who really doesn't know how to, and I don't know how to tell them how, what do you say to that? How do you deal with that?
Well, your curriculum is what's in front of you right now. So if there's something that's really bombarding you, start to dive deep into feeling what you're actually feeling. Because not everything that you feel, you're supposed to say. Not every emotion that you feel, you're supposed to just project and blurt out.
Mm,
So it's like, okay, well, let me feel what is actually the conflict. Instead of me going and looking at this person's actions of what they're doing and how they're making me feel, find out what are you actually feeling.
mm,
And then whatever you're feeling, and if it's causing that much dysregulation, you're talking about boundary work that you have to start creating. Your actions are activating something in me, and I'm feeling this way, whatever that feeling is. And is that going to be uncomfortable? Oh, heck yes. Because boundary work, we think it's in regards to other people. It's actually, no, we have to uphold the boundaries for ourselves.
mm.
We think everybody should be mind readers and know how to treat us.
Yeah, no, we have to we have to be able to verbalize or show and demonstrate what our boundaries are. Yeah.
And so it's actually feeling like the question I would start with is, what are my needs?
Mm.
Most people can't even answer that.
No.
And, sometimes I need to be in silence. Sometimes I need to be moving. Sometimes I need to feel fulfillment. I need to be connected. There's all kinds of different needs to navigate in the world, in your world.
Yeah.
It's understanding more, again, like I said, befriending your nervous system. What causes your triggers? Because it's not people that are triggering you. You own the buttons. So why are you pushing these buttons?
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's that thing of, other people aren't responsible for but nobody can make you feel a certain way. You are responsible for how you react and how you feel about a situation.
And other nervous systems activate other nervous systems. So we're
Okay.
not going to go about, oh, it's all like me and I got to take. No, any parent will understand when they go near their children, there's all kinds of activations that go on and stimulations. And I think in the world, we're trying to, this connection where it's like you're going to disconnect. It's all about the repair. And Who are you willing to disconnect from, yet you're willing to do that work of repair?
Mm.
Because the repair is being able to talk about our emotions, how it felt, and we're willing to come back together.
Yeah.
But people are so busy on not disconnecting that it's making them unhealthy. And there's no like there's no way to stay you can't even stay connected with yourself all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So allowing yourself, you know, the space of, like I say, it's radical honesty. That's why people come in when they're willing, they come and seek the work that I do, because it feels very unsafe to feel these emotions. Like the client I just had before you, there were some emotions that she was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think I could feel this, yet I feel such a difference in my body. And I said it and I don't feel embarrassed or judged.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, I didn't realize. And it's like, yeah, you have the safety that you didn't have when you were a parent to feel these big emotions. You didn't have the person in front of you to give you the power of recognizing you have the capacity to feel this stuff and be honest about it, not try to hide it.
Yeah.
Yet it's work and it's daunting, yet it's really having that honesty with yourself, and pick up a journal and start journaling on those pages of what are you actually feeling, not the pretend version of maybe trying to be spiritual and being gentle and kumbaya, or being angry and all. Like, find out what, and if you're feeling really angry and frustrated all the time, spoiler alert, you're in a lot of fear.
Mm.
The anger is just trying to protect your fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know how to articulate that and be vulnerable about it for yourself. It's a sensitivity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There you are. Fear is the at the other end of the spectrum from love. It is, everything lives somewhere between those. And working out what you're afraid of, working out what the fear of losing usually is the fear of losing something, losing control, losing status, losing anything. Yeah, is where we get to losing face, losing your reputation, losing, gosh, there's so much that fear can engender.
And the one function your nervous system has is don't die.
Yeah,
So the fear of losing your face or losing finances, that's like a death.
yeah. Again,
So
back
people
to the
are trying to,
grief. Yeah.
yes, that's why I say change, have a healthy relationship with death, really understand what it is and understand the function of the nervous system. Stop
Mm,
berating the nervous system that I shouldn't fear. You need fear to navigate this world. Like
mm.
it instinct, oh my God, there's a car here, or don't get burnt, or um when somebody is harming you, you get an instinct, ooh, this doesn't feel right to go down this alley. You want that fear. That's generating for you to be protected.
Yes.
The overload of the fear is that we've created so many psychological belief systems, and we have been so separated from the self and our worth that we feel not good enough and everything feels like a death.
That's big.
And
Yeah.
so it's understanding coming back into the body and creating safety within your nervous system. Does it sound simple? It is simple to do. It's not easy to practice, and it's going to take some time.
Mm,
And it's going to take that curiosity and that loving kindness. Like when, you know, again, I'm just referencing this client because there was so much that happened. She was reading her old journal, and she was using a language that she was so disgusted to see how obsessed and how she was trying to control things. And I was like, wait a minute, you hear that? Well, no, no, no. Like logically, I'm not. I'm like, no, no, no. Do you hear what? And she's like, oh yeah. I'm like, go deeper. What are you actually feeling? It's not disgust. Are you feeling embarrassed? She's like, well, yeah. She's like, actually, no, I'm feeling sadness. I'm like, there.
mm,
But we've created this defense of whatever disgusts us, let's have a harshness with it rather than let's see it with sensitive eyes for a moment.
mm.
Let's have a better understanding of why we were doing these things. Yet it feels repulsing to admit, oh my gosh, I was doing these things. I was a type of self-sabotage.
Yeah. You can look back with loving kindness and go, I can see that I was doing the best that I could with what I had available. And that was all I could do in that moment. That was all I knew how to do and what to do. So I have to be compassionate to my past me. Yeah. It's big work.
And there's no arrival. That's the thing that some of these people are alluding to, and just take my course or take my pill and everything will arrive and everything will be gone. Like you asked me, how can we start getting out of regret? And I'm like, spoiler alert, it's a visitor coming. Can I sit with you? Are
Yeah.
you allowing me to sit without you going and going in the flashback and pushing me away? Can you see what the message of whatever that regret is? Because there's a grief, there's a loss with anything.
Yeah.
Any choice we make, there's something we're gaining and there's something we're losing.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so can I visit without you being repulsed and pushing me away and creating holes with an H? Can you be whole with this without soaking and stewing in it?
Yeah.
Like, you process and you feel your feelings, you don't sit in them.
It's some people do, but yeah, that's not what you want to be doing. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the process.
That is the
You,
process.
you There's no perfection in this. And please do not hit the wall of like suffering that you think there's going to be this arrival point and you're going to have it all together and you're going to be pain free and the unicorns are going to be pooping out rainbows all the time. That's that toxic positivity that has harmed so many people.
Yeah. To think that there is an end point where, oh, I've completed my work. I am now the finished article. Like never doesn't, nobody's the finished article. That's why, you know, if you believe in spirits coming back and back, we're just learning and it takes,
Oh, and you can anchor into that ancestry, not in a way that, oh my gosh, they dumped all this trauma on me. They also have resilience that you get to anchor into. But
mm,
again, the nervous system and the language of society is the not good enough, so they can get you keep going and going. And the nervous system, when it's dysregulated, it's negative biases. So the work is to shift your perception to see the positive. Like, it's work when you've had significant trauma throughout your life, your nervous system's dysregulated. It's looking at the negative all the time because that's its job.
so yes, exactly. That's its task. It's the lookout. It's the guard. It's there to keep you safe. It's the sentry outside your front door going, who are you? What are you doing here? It has to be there. Otherwise, these things come rampaging in. Yeah.
So please, like, any listener that is feeling they're not attaining somewhere or they're hitting their wall, I just want you to see that I see you and take yourself off the hook, please.
Mm.
Allow there to be a tenderness. I know it might feel like a threat to do that because of whatever you're navigating through, and environments matter too.
Yeah.
It's not on the outside, it's allowing there to be a tenderness on the inside
Yeah.
so that can start to flourish and you can start creating that safety within your own body and trust yourself.
Yeah. These such important messages. There's such valuable. You've given me so much, given us so much today, Nat. Thank you so much. Tell everybody how they can get hold of you, what your platforms are, because you have a podcast as well yourself, don't you?
Yes, it's called Lift Oneself. So my company, as I said, like, I meditated on the name of the company and it was lift the ego out. So really tap into your nervous system so you can be in the oneself. Because when you're in stillness, you understand when you're in those yoga poses and you're in your body, you're in that one self, you're connected in all, you can feel the vibration of everything. And
Mm.
so that's what that lift oneself is, really regulating your nervous system, the ego, so that you can be in the oneself. And so my website is called liftoneself.com. And you can find me on social media platforms under Lift Oneself also, and my podcast also, Lift Oneself. Presently, I'm writing a book, so hopefully it'll be out beginning of next year. And I'm also in the midst of creating courses. It's right now I'm doing one-on-one sessions with people because, when I engage with a person, it helps to do that. I can get their nervous system and have them process what they need to so they feel the results of that. Yet I know that I can create it in a course content so that everybody can, have the activation that I provide, that safety,
Yeah.
that, it doesn't have to be daunting. Like this work, look at it in a way that it doesn't feel like it's schoolwork,
No.
because schoolwork made us feel like, well, once I get over this, it's done. And sometimes we went and did this schoolwork and we didn't want to be there.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, let me be curious, because when you do the work, there's more glimmers of joy. There's more glimmers of appreciation that even with the shit, I can still have some joy and happiness of navigating.
Yeah, no, but it's a discovery, isn't it? It's, it's seeking, it's looking for the answers. It's a discovery that you want to do. It's not something because somebody's told you you've got to do. You're doing this work because you're eager for it, because you're yearning for it, because your soul goes, I need to do this. For me, I know that the right clients show up for me because they've felt that it's the right work for them, and so it is, and it works, and it's magnificent. And so I know that when somebody's drawn to me in my energy, that it's going to work, that we're going to make results, find differences, find change and development. And it's the same, I'm sure, with you. Like, people who are drawn to you, it works. And coursework, group coursework is fantastic. Group work is always really energetic and wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. A collective, when we can heal together, that just the nervous systems that align together and the vibration, it's without words. Like I know you've seen it, and anybody that's been in a group, the healing that is, you're not even able to articulate it in words or verbiage. And it's a beautiful thing and it's the gift that you're deserving to give yourself.
It
You are
is.
deserving of this work.
Yeah. Yeah. We all are. Absolutely. We just have to take that leap, give it to ourselves.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
give yourself permission and remember, time is a tool, it's not a toy.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate this. And for you and the listeners, please remember to be kind to yourself. You matter.